Dr. Jazz.
But and I'll
Dr.
just jump in, I wanted to ask you just like the last record I kind of heard by you with Alex, Same Moon in the Same World, and what's been going on in the band leading department? I mean, I know the trio HLK that's kind of been happening lately, but like what's on the strictly band leading department going on your side?
Yeah, well, actually, the Same Moon in the Same World thing, that Alex and I co-lead that. So that's
Yeah.
been really nice because I mean, just all the responsibility doesn't fall on your shoulders, right? I mean, you know how it is. Whether that be booking gigs, paying for something, I don't know, a hotel or whatever, or yeah, and then writing the music. So Same Moon in the Same World, that was a yeah, that was like me and Alex kind of 50-50. Even on the album, actually, there are four tunes of Alex's, four tunes of mine, and then we put a Coltrane tune, just, of course, because why not? Um, but yeah, in the band leading thing, there's a lot of things that I'm doing that are going to emerge soon. When are you thinking of posting this video, by the way? Because
I
I can
think
tell you
this will be
about
out
maybe.
like in August. So
Okay, cool. So on 16th of August, I'm releasing a duo album with an amazing singer here called Brigitte Baraha. And I'm excited about that because I've only done like large ensemble music before. I mean, not large ensemble, but like, trio,
yeah.
quartet, quintet. So duo, yeah, I'm
Cool.
excited to share that. And I have another quintet album in the bag, which will be out early next year, I think. But I'm going to keep that a secret until then, so everyone will hear about the lineup if they're interested in good time. But yeah, that's what I'm up to. And the trio HLK thing. Sorry, just to finish off, like my entire
Okay.
life in the first 1 minute is that is like we lead that as a three piece basically. So that we aim to divide everything in threes. But the
Fantastic.
music is mostly almost entirely composed by Richard Harold, the pianist.
I
So
see.
I think you can hear how cohesive all of that music is if anyone wants to go and listen to anthropometrics or standard time.
Yeah.
It you can hear it's a very distilled thing and it's from coming from one man's brain basically. So yeah, so that's the trio, three-way thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that you do like with Alex, sharing stuff, and that's great nowadays because it's so heavy, as you know, to lead stuff and release records and all that. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite a project. I wanted to see.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah,
It seems to be getting harder as well. I don't know if it's just in the UK, but I mean, like obviously things like the DSPs, they are amazing in ways that people don't always appreciate. Like people will play, let's say Spotify, for
hmm,
example. If people are listening to other jazz guitarists, there's a chance that there's a likelihood that Spotify will put my music in front of them. Um, and that's great. So that really is added value. But then I'm a little bit apprehensive about them adding all these podcasts and audiobooks because it's just going to mean musicians are getting less, basically. And already musicians are starting to make,
oh man, yeah,
well, you could call it an artistic decision based on the format, like the length of something that's going to get playlisted on Spotify. What is it like? 2 to 7 minutes or something, or 4 to 7 minutes maybe, and like kind of consistent volume. It's a Yeah, it's a
yeah,
bit of a mess, but we'll come through it, man. Jazz always prevails.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's never been easy. Bandcamp is a good solution. I think it's, at least for me, I see it's working quite well. And but yeah, it's heavy. It's not easy. It's not easy. That's for sure. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and I wanted to ask you just about Same Moon before we talked about it. How did that? I mean, it's now 2 years old, but like, how did that record happen? Especially, the lineup of musicians you guys have on there, because that's like, I think that's like the most evil bands you can get there, like in a positive sense,
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I mean, yeah, like Alex and I really agree. That's why we asked those people to do it. Um, Obviously, yeah, like, um, yeah, I mean, when we were first locked down in London, I was thinking, right, what am I going to do? And I'd wanted to figure out how to record at home
Mm.
for a long time, but I just hadn't done it. Then I finally had a bit of time, and I was talking to a drummer over here called John Scott, who is really good at home recording. And I mean, he's not good at home recording. He has a studio that he records at, but he can advise me, like, if you say, like, what's your budget? How many tracks do you need to record? He can like plug it into his brain and tell you, like, maybe this, So he told me to get this interface and a couple of mics, and then I was just trying to get busy. So I was asking loads of musicians, hey, do you want to do a track? And some were like, no, I don't know. No, oh no, I don't know. What would we do? But others were like, yeah, sure. What about this thing? And Alex was like, oh, okay, but what you mean, like duo, or who should we get? And then we just thought, well, I mean, we could try, like, why don't we try Kendrick Scott? You never know. Why don't we try Linda O? Why don't we try Joel Russ? Like, maybe they're a bit more available now, if they're locked down in their respective cities. And we were delighted when some of them accepted our offer. It was great, and I think that emboldened us. And then we were like, okay, well, should we get like Kendrick to do the whole album, or maybe we could try someone else, like keep it quite collaborative, And then we realized, oh, maybe it would be really fun after that, when we've got the album, we could do some gigs and we could ask different people to do them, because that's really been a feature of Alex's work. He has an album called Dream Band, and then he released this triple CD, which has like a different band on each lineup, and he's doing a new record. It's highly collaborative, pushing back against the idea of a band. So yeah, it kind of evolved out of that, and we were just delighted that people were up for it. So yeah, certainly a very evil band that we feel very privileged to have them all on the album. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. How have you written music for that? I mean, in general, when I listen to you, you're such a great composer,
Oh,
Ever
thanks
since
so much, man.
Entanglement,
Thank you.
it's so melodic or rhythmic, and when I listen to Haven't Meta Yet, and those tunes, like, it's beautiful music, What's your process when writing? Usually with guitar, or?
Oh, well, thank you so much, man. Like, yeah, I find writing quite hard, actually. So I'm really pleased that you've liked some of the music. Yeah, I almost always write a guitar. Sometimes there's a rhythmic thing, except for like Haven't Meta, I was like, dun, dun,
Yeah, yeah. I love
that
that.
was
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, that emerged from that. I mean, you can see how the riff is like, did a little, it's such an obvious dum dum, did a little. You just divide the rhythm amongst the band. So sometimes things emerge out of from a rhythmic framework. So, for example, on Entanglement, I'm impressed, man. You've been here since the beginning.
Yeah, I love those records, man.
Um,
It's beautiful. I mean, so melodic, although you developed clearly, I think you're writing, it's
right.
Entanglement, it's different in a sense than now. I don't know why, but it's more rhythmical nowadays, I think. Although even back then you had it, but it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Cool. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, that's cool. Yeah. I don't really know. I'm just trying to do it. It's very hard. That's the hardest thing about writing and developing as a musician, as you and a lot of your viewers know, I'm sure, is the process of self-criticism and not letting that become overwhelming. Because if I write a tune, I have to be able to say, actually, this tune sucks. This should go in the bin. But then I also have to be able to say, okay, this tune isn't quite right, so what can I change? But then sometimes when you play a gig, like, if the whole time you're thinking, oh man, I should have left more space on that thing, or I can't
Yep.
believe I should have used distortion on that, or I should have steamed in with the solo on this piece. It's very hard to disengage that self-criticism. So it's just tricky for me personally anyway. Maybe some people find it easy. But yeah, I always write the guitar on Entangled. The reason I brought that up, the first track on that, Kandajati, is rhythmic, like a conical exercise, right? I mean, not an exercise. It evolved out of exercises, and I picked my favorite ones and put riffs to it. So sometimes there's that, but almost all of the things are, yeah, just like riffs on guitar or chord melodies. It's always best when it's chord melody, you know?
Really?
Always better, because the melody and the harmony are, yeah, for me, I think my favorite ones are, yeah. What about you?
Oh man,
What do you think? You write like,
I write I wrote a lot. I wrote like 300 tunes so far, and I don't know. It's lately,
oh,
lately I have problems. Like, somehow, what you know, whether I should complicate or not. Like in the past, I used to write like 8 pagers, odd meters, changing harmony all the time. I've done that,
bro,
and now I'm like, shit, yeah, I don't know, maybe just one page should be. Yeah, exactly.
I've been working on this week.
Christ, man, what is
I
this? Is like
14 page.
Ben Monder stuff or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, let me sleep that there.
What
Yeah,
is
it's
that?
hard.
That's a new
Oh,
tune.
well, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't trying to plug that, but I've been trying to, that's been a new thing as well. So I enjoyed this collaboration so much with Alex. I was talking to a guitar player called Chris Montague. You know
Yeah,
him?
sure, yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
Yep. Wicked. Yeah, amazing cat here. And we thought it would be cool to do something that's maybe not exactly jazz, or we don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be really guitar-y. Two guitars, obviously. So, and other bits. So yeah, that's a piece that he sent me, like 3 pages of music. And then he's like, yeah, we need a solo section. And then unfortunately, I just added 11 pages, and now there's like 3 solo sections. So I don't know. Listen up for it. It's called The Hurg, Hurg. So if it comes out on an album in
super.
like 2 years, then people are going to know what it is.
Man, that's like those. Have you seen those Ben Monder
Yeah,
songbooks?
yeah, I have them both over there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And it's like, those tunes, like 36 pages of
Yeah,
constant changing stuff.
man, and even pieces like Window Pane, just
Yeah,
still motion, constant density. Just wow, what an amazing cat he is, man.
yeah.
Someone was telling me he has a couple of CDs worth of new solo guitar music ready to go. That's going to come out soon. So
That's for
excited.
us, right? Yeah. Speaking of Monder, or in general, who are your guitar heroes? Or I mean, well, I'll first start there. What was the main reason you started playing guitar, and then how did you end up in jazz? Actually, I mean, what's the evolution there?
Yeah. Heroes. It's funny, isn't it? I think I always grew up listening to like guitar-y music. My parents listened to like rock and blues and that kind of thing. And I was listening to like Guns N' Roses and Queen, and stuff like that. But then like the guitar solos were always my favorite bits. So or the instrumental sections anyway. So then I branched off into like, Vai and Satriani, who I still kind of keep up with today. I still kind of check in with them every now and then. But then it wasn't too much of a leap from like, Flying in a Blue Dream
Yeah,
to
yeah.
My Favorite Things. There are massive differences, but there are massive similarities as well. And initially I just thought if I learned jazz, it would make me better at rock. But now I don't know what happened. Somewhere down the line, I got like a lot. It's slippery slope. It's a slippery slope, the
It's a
jazz slope.
disease. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a disease.
And I think now, so for example, someone like Kurt Rosenwinkel, who has, that Heavenly Bodies, Star of Jupiter,
Yeah.
it even reminds me, I wonder if Kurt knows Crystal Planet by Satriani, which has a piece called With Jupiter in Mind. But there's certainly,
Hmm.
for me, it's the same music. There's very, very clear melodies and great guitar playing and
Legato-ish, very, yeah.
yeah, and just nice sounds and stuff. So yeah, Kurt certainly Ben and Lage from a harmonic point of view. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many cats, aren't
Yeah.
there? Really, there's something to take from everyone, but I guess, yeah, it's hard to say. But there are a few names anyway.
Mm. But did you then study guitar or jazz guitar or no?
No, I had a couple of lessons. YouTubers may be familiar with Justin Guitar. He has like 5 gajillion subscribers, like everyone on Earth, and also other planets are subscribed to him now, and it's growing still. I had a lesson with him, and he told me get a real book and learn these arpeggios, and I was always quite studious, and I was given some opportunities by a drummer who's sadly died now, but he was called Bill Kyle in Edinburgh. I was doing a physics degree, so I
Really?
didn't study
Wow,
music.
that's cool.
Yeah. But he gave me some gigs and stuff, where the stakes were kind of low enough. He did this with many people, and he really gave me an opportunity to learn from him and other musicians at the time who were a bit more experienced. So I kind of learned by doing, but I was always very studious and I always practiced, and maybe being scientific or very focused, with the
Yeah.
physics. I could look at a C major 7 and go, right, what am I supposed to do here? But if you look at it very scientifically, it's a starting point.
Interesting. Yeah. But did you then I mean, did you also go, you mentioned Lage and Kurt, all these guys kind of post 2000, I'll put it like that. But did you go also then back to older guys like Wes and Grant Green and stuff? Did you check that out as well? Or?
Oh yeah, I first started listening to I think someone said, oh, if Ant likes jazz, to my mom and dad, they said get him like Joe Pass and Pat Metheny and Wes Montgomery. So I sort of started with them a little bit, but yeah, certainly Grant Green was a bit of a late discovery for me. Lenny Bro, I really
Oh yeah.
always enjoyed him. And some other Barney Kessel and Kenny Burrell and Tal Farlow I was checking, and Pat Martino. Pat Martino was probably early on, just because, I don't know, man, something about, well, the Live at Yoshi's album, something about the time feel, and it's so, like, I hate the word soulful, but for me it really was, really, really connected. Yeah, but I'm sure there are big gaps. I mean, I still find cats that I haven't checked out, man. Like, had a lesson, I should say, in my music education. I went over to New York and maxed out the tourist visa and had lots of
Really?
lessons.
Oh wow. Who
Yeah,
did you have lessons with?
with Lage Lund, Adam Rogers,
Okay.
Gilad Hexelman, Ari Honig, Johannes Wiedemuller, Chris Crocco.
Oh, I don't know him.
Chris Crocco. Yeah. Check him out, man. Crocco.
Okay.
So yeah, getting loads of ideas from, and it was amazing, man. I mean, I learned, so much then. Why did I start talking about that? Yeah, just kind of education, I guess. Yeah. I've had periods of maybe learning a lot and then just practice for 5 years and then go back and yeah. Actually, and Ben, I had lesson with Ben.
How was that like?
It was amazing. It was a long one, and it was great because I found this section. If anyone knows the last few chords on the track Dust,
Yeah.
by Ben, I was like, man, what is this thing? Like, how, because I had the book at the time, but how did you find this thing? And he was like, oh, I can't remember. Sorry, that was 15 years ago, And then I asked him on Double Sun. If anyone knows Double Sun, the high 3 strings on the guitar are kind of in, I think in A major, and the low 3 are in C major. And I was like, Ben, why? How can you do this? What's going on? And he was just said oh, I thought it sounded cool. So then I was like, oh my God, it's that simple. Just experiment and see what sounds cool. And he recommended a load of compositions and composers who rub keys together. That was his term for it. And in a casual way, a kind of casual term for it. And just that different keys would rub more than others. So I guess if you rub G G against C, it's going to have way less friction, you know, than like B against C. Anyway, so yeah, so that happened, and that was great. Oh yeah, the reason I started saying that is because Gilad told me about Jimmy Weibel, and then I was checking out Jimmy Weibel, and then checking out Ted Green and Ed Bickert, and I mean, checking out, you know, when people say that, it's like I checked it out and I ticked it off a list. I mean, there's too much music to be able to do that for me meaningfully, you know, but just to have a listen and get inspiration and be aware of this thing that was happening. And it makes me feel quite agoraphobic, really, because there's just so much. And where do we fit in? I don't really know. I'm just like trying to do something that sounds cool, and then maybe other people figure out if I fit in somewhere at all. But that was why I mentioned that Big Apple studies. It was just because you find out about older players from younger players, and you know.
Yeah.
So.
No, but you do. It's. I mean, somehow we all manage to get our voice through time, or like already in the beginning, like that you hear like, okay, that's Ant, that's, you know, that's Gilad, that's Lage. Somehow I mean, we all come from the same nucleus, but then each of us gets this specific thing going on that you hear like, okay, that's Go, that's Mander. Like, how did you work on your sound? I mean, when you look back, when you started, you know, working on jazz and in your sound, like what was your path there? I mean, obviously, you know, you've been using distortion as well, and you dug into 8-string and all that stuff. Like, how do you see your evolution on?
Yeah. When you say sound, do you mean the actual sonic kind of characteristics, the recorded?
Actually.
Yeah, as opposed to the
sound.
overall.
Yeah. Let's say both.
Yeah. Well, I think yeah. Well, I guess at some point I thought, oh, I got to get one of those like jazz-looking guitars, you know. So like, and I think maybe on one of my birthdays or something, I can't remember if I saved up money or if it was in the period where your parents, if you're extremely privileged like me, you know, your parents bought you a couple of guitars before you had to like buy your own, you know. Anyway, but I got a 335. I went to try loads of them, and I played about 10 in a shop, and I didn't really like them. But one of them, I don't know, the neck was different. It was very thin, and I could play fast on it, which, you know, I like density in music, and I like I said, I've been listening to Vai and Satriani and stuff. So you know, I wanted to be able to get around, and I think then, yeah, my first couple of albums, I was just trying to experiment with different things, like, you know, I think I usually had a polytone and then some kind of valve amp, or like an AER, and then like a Blues Junior. That was my first, the first kind of revelation about this blending more than one sound together to get a really rich, full sound. But in recent years, I've a trick that I got from like not to name drop. I mean, everyone in London eventually is going to do some kind of work at Abbey Road studios, and some of it will be really cool, and some of it might be less cool. But I did some film and TV music there once, and the guitar sounded unbelievable. And I went and asked the engineer, the head engineer there, what are you doing to the guitar? Is it this massive special desk? Or some preamp? I always say preamps, you know, my Marina has a preamp. I don't know what any of that is. How are you making the sound so good? And he said, it's very specific. I'm going to tell you, what we do is we make sure we do nothing. We make sure we do as little as possible to your signal from where we take the signal. So they had a KM184 pointed at the guitar for the acoustic sound, and then there was a little valve amp in a box that they made out of baffles, and that had a Neumann. What's the big? Is it U67 or U?
Yeah.
67.
The big ones, yeah.
So it was just both of them. So now, whenever I record, I just get them, and I really like that, because you get the brightness and the sparkle from
From the
the small diaphragm condenser. Yeah, yeah. And then you can blend that in or take it out if you want to play with a smoother, more shreddy sound. Ultimately, I'd love to do that live. I've seen there's a cat. Is he called like Andrew Goodman or something like that? It's a new guy. A couple of friends in London have been sending YouTube videos of like, hey, look, a guy's using a mic on gigs now.
Wow.
I think he's touring with a mic to get fully acoustic sound. Yeah, I apologize. He's a new guy to me, but a very fine player. I think he's called Andrew Goodman or something like that.
I have to check him out. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's the key to sound, right? A blended, I mean, well, for me, that it sounds that I like.
Sure.
Having a rich salt and pepper.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. You mentioned Abbey Road Studios. When did you decide to move to London and starting making a name on the scene? And how was that like for you? I mean, obviously, London is the scene is incredible. There's an amount of musicians, although it's not the same, I guess, as New York because it's a little bit different. But still, like, what's your story there?
Yeah, it's very different. It is very different. How is it different? One thing is there aren't as many Latin American musicians here, which is kind of interesting. And like, I mean, there's so many differences. But one of the similarities is, I guess, just like you said, the sheer volume of people, which then proportionally means there's a sheer volume of musicians. But I never especially wanted to make a name for myself or anything like that. But I moved down. So I did a physics degree in Edinburgh Uni and got a taste of playing jazz gigs and how wonderful it can be to play, improvised music, like just how creative that spontaneous creative feeling and how much you can make in a moment with other musicians who are listening. That's greater than anything you could ever make yourself, basically. And it's just completely addictive and causes us all to make this, financially suicidal decisions, basically, which have impact for decades. But so I finished a physics degree, and in those studies made me realize that I didn't want to do anything like that for a living. And I thought I just have to make it work musically. So I moved down here and was seeking out. So that must have been in like, I'm really terrible with years, but maybe like 15 years ago now.
Already. Okay.
Let me just do some. So I was like 22. Yeah, so 2005, 2006 or something like that. And of course, no one knew who I was. I mean, why would they? There were all these cliques at the Royal Academy and Trinity and Guildhall and stuff. And so I didn't have any gigs at all. So I thought, okay, well, what if I start a band? Why don't I just start a band? And then maybe then I can book my own gigs or something. I didn't know that was something people do, but I was just winging it. And so then I just carried on doing that, really. And it's going okay. I mean, there's still worky gigs like what we were talking about, film, TV, music, that kind of thing, and like a little bit of teaching now to help exist and feed myself.
Interesting.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, sure. How did then entanglement happen through this? That you basically started leading bands and then just you needed basically an album or?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an old catch-22. There's so many catch-22s in this business, but like, I think people said, "Oh, do you have a record? You want a gig, but what's the band?" And then I don't know, like, give me the gig, and then I'll book the cats, and then I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
But people were like, "Well, what's the story of the gig? All this stuff." And it's not enough to say, "Well, I'm a musician. I'm going to come and play music. How about that?" It's not enough. It has to be, okay, here is a new album. It's my debut album. And it's got these musicians and I'm, a whole new volume of compositions and arrangements that I'm excited to bring into the world. So yeah, it certainly emerged out of that. And I booked just asked some of my favorite musicians and they were up for it. So that was nice. And then carried on doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, was it easy for you to start leading a band? And even now, like, how have you developed as a band leader? I mean, when you look back.
No, 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 no. It was absolutely horrible. It
Okay.
was horrible, man. It was absolutely horrible. Yeah, like I mean, people were nice, you know, but it's so hard because you write a tune and you don't know whether it's good or not, and
Mm,
so sometimes I'm still learning, you know. I mean, I don't know how many albums I've done, maybe six it recorded now, maybe eight or nine, but you know, out there maybe I don't know, five or six. Um, and the sideman thing, actually, you know, you learn so much more, or you learn a lot from being a sideman because you see people doing the same things you've done, and you see that tug of war where, let's say, you've written something very intricate and you want to honor the compositional material, but it's restrictive for improvisation.
yeah.
And as a composer, the composer in you is like, that's the piece, that's what we have to do. But then when you're a sideman, you go, okay, look, if it's like a major 7 flat 9 chord, maybe I'm going to play the flat 9. Maybe I'm just going to ignore it and think of it as something
Yeah.
simpler. That's just a very
Yeah.
basic example. But when you're not the composer, you're not attached in the same way that you may be when you are the composer. So yeah, that was a really positive thing. Like I feel like if people, there's a couple of maybe younger musicians here who like aren't sure exactly about how to get gigs and get things moving, and I've been telling them, look, once you've got your own project out there, you're just a bit more visible and other people will book you, and so that's a really good thing. But yeah, it was really horrible, man. It's hard. Learning is hard, you know. You learn through failure, and
I know.
failure is necessary,
Yeah.
but it sucks, you know. I remember with Entanglement, I said to the record label, I actually have a contract. Maybe I can try and find it. And I told him, after 3 years of it being out, I have the right to remove it from everywhere, because I thought, oh, what if I decide it's not good enough? And like, okay, cool. My solos could be more burning. Maybe there's other things I would change about my playing and the compositions, but like, I'm certainly not ashamed of it. I think it's like,
Sure. It's a
it's
great
cool
thing.
enough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. But like, you know what I mean? You feel so insecure, and like musicians don't go, Samo, this composition is deeply profound and moving, and it's an honor to play it. Thank you for booking me in the studio. Thank you for booking me on the gigs. I'm really pleased to be joining you on this journey. No, they don't say that. They're just like, what's the money? You know, of course, like it's a struggle for everyone down here.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, some musicians are a bit warmer, but you know what I mean? You
In
don't
general, sure.
always
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
tell me.
Yeah. And it's for me, it was the same. You
Yeah.
know, when I was a teenager, I got into jazz through Pat Metheny, right? And then you have this romantic idea.
Right.
I went to see Pat Metheny group still with Lyle Mace and those cats. And you know, there's like 3,000 people or 5,000 in Italy, and I'm like, man, shit, I want to do that, you know. But it's like only this romantic notion. That's what it is. And then you enter the business. And it's like, yeah, I want to make this
Yeah.
album. Yeah, so how much does it pay? It's like, what do you mean? Like, shit, I have to pay you guys. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know
Hey.
shit, you know. I was like, what?
Oh, you want to get money? You want to get money from it?
Yeah, and then you start touring,
Yeah.
and it's the blah blah blah. It's so funny, man. It's because no one tells you that, you know. It's if you. I also didn't study jazz, so it's like I didn't know how this goes. So it's like we learn through sideman stuff, and someone telling
Yeah,
you like,
you learn through failure.
yeah, you know, it's booking hotel rooms. Like I remember around the first tours, I booked like a apartment for all of us, and the guys were like, I want a single room, you know, like, oh shit, yeah, I'm sorry, man. Like, I didn't know that. I want a single room now too.
Yeah,
on the road,
I'm that guy now, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
When people are like, it's shared rooms, is that okay? I'm like, absolutely not. I
no,
think I was on one tour, I just had to book my own hotel room. I was like, no, man, no. It's also for the benefit of the other people, you know,
absolutely,
not just yourself. But
absolutely. But funny, no?
yeah, touring, man.
Yeah. But and not to take too much of your time, but just I wanted to ask you, learning through as a sideman, how did you end
Sure.
up with Tim Garland and his groups and those records that you did? You know, the
Yeah.
stellar bands he had back then, and
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. Well, it actually ties in with what I was saying. I maybe there's kind of a neat thing. So the first track on Entanglement is called Kanda Jati. I was practicing quintuplets, and then I had this album Zero Sum World, which has a track called Mishra Jati, which is like septuplets. And I had a lesson. There was this guy, you know, the fearsome reputation among musicians called Asaf Sirkis.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah.
Yeah, an
Yeah.
astounding.
We made an album together. I'll send it to you. It's a beautiful.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
mate, I'd love to hear that, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful.
Asaf is a huge inspiration, personally and musically. Anyway, I took a lesson with him, and I was like, man, I've heard that some of these Indian cats are going up to 9 per beat, and he was like, yes, it's called Sankirna Jati. And so he gave me some stuff, and I haven't managed to put it on an album yet, but I need to develop it. It's just a really tricky one, because you can feel it as 3 threes. Your brain sometimes takes a shortcut there. But anyway, so I said, oh, hey man, listen, I'd love it if here's my album. I'd love it if you'd just check it out. Let me know what you think. And he gave me his album, Shepherd Stories, which I loved. I listened to a lot. And I think Tim Garland asked him, actually, no, Gwilym Simcock had injured his hand playing football and could only play with his left hand. And so Tim, at the kind of last minute ish, needed someone to come and just do some like right hand, basically in that range. And he asked Asaf, and Asaf said, oh, I've got this album by this guy, Ant Law. He probably said he seems quite keen or something, you know. And I was so excited when I got the call, and he said it's Tim Garland. I was like, wow, because I'd heard of him, you know. Yeah, it was cool. And then I just worked as hard as I could, and it really was a complete roast, man, because harmonically, Gwilym, Jason Rebello, they were way ahead of where I was at. I don't know when it was, maybe 10 years ago or something like that. They were way ahead of me. So it felt like everything was a slash chord, you know, and everything is a slash chord, but just there could be so much detail in the harmony if you want.
Yeah.
Or there appears to be so much detail when you don't know the easy route through, or, you know, it felt like that. It felt harmonically overwhelming, but in a good way. You know, I learned a lot, and I still learn, you know, I still learn from those players. Like Tim's new album sounds amazing. Tim Garland, Moment of Departure, harmonically really sophisticated. And it was wicked, man. And sometimes there were harsh conversations. I remember, like, he's a really sweet guy, and he's been incredibly encouraging to my career. But in the hotel at breakfast one morning after a gig, Jason said to me, he was like, "Ant, last night I didn't feel like you were
There.
you know." And but he said it in a nice way, and he was right. And we had a few more gigs, and then you know, I can't really remember what happened after that, because that was the important thing for me to realize. I think I was kind of waiting for something to happen in solos, and I think it was just his opinion. Everyone has an opinion, but I think he was saying, like, throw down a little bit more, just get in there, man, you know, just play a bit more. And I could have been like, no, I'm not that type of player, or no, I'm going to do my thing, you know. But actually, he was really right in that context, and I'm so glad he said that. And a lot of people don't say that kind of thing, or if they do, they don't say it in a nice way. But he said that. So it wasn't always comfortable, like I was talking about, you know, like learning we're reaching beyond ourselves, I guess, when we learn something new. So yeah, so but he's become a friend, and and I haven't played with him so much in the last few months or anything, but but that was great. And I'm very inspired by them as people and musicians, and their work together. You know, Tim and Jason, for example, I love the Life to Life album, and hope to do more when the time comes.
Yeah. Speaking of hoping to do more, what are the plans for you for this year? I mean, like you mentioned, you know, the duo album which is coming out when this one is out, so and the new quintet album, and what are the touring plans? I mean, do you have any plans of coming to continental Europe as well, like where Central Europe or?
Yeah. Where are you, Summer?
I'm in Slovenia.
Oh man. Well, you'll have to pass me a couple of email addresses and we'll see if we can make it out there. But in Europe, yeah, I have a gig. The next thing that's happening is some dates with Alex Hithcock with a version of the Same Moon in the Same World that kind of happened naturally with Jasper Hoiby and Sung Mi Hong. So we've recorded an album, and we're outside the UK. We're playing in Holland. We're doing the BIM house, and we also have a gig in Norway, and we're working on more. Maybe when we do the album launch, which maybe that'll be next year, like a release tour or something, we'll hook up a few more things. But yeah, I'm up for it. It's just we were talking about I was talking. I've been talking a lot.
Oh, that's about you, you know. That's why we're here. So.
Yeah, sure. But talking about Catch-22s, it's very difficult to build an audience in a territory without playing there. But no promoter is going to say, hey, sure, come. Yeah, I'll pay you loads of money to come and play here, even though no one's going to come because you don't have an audience. So that's another one of those
that's a heavy one, yeah.
22s. But it's certainly, that's the project. Yeah, that's the mission at the moment. So there's that. Trio HLK, we're booking. I feel like I'm been working a lot on recording projects, trying to just chill out with the social media and stuff like that, and just write a lot, record a lot, and then it'll be booking tours and getting back on pushing the work out there. I've just been doing the work at the moment, you know, like I said, this 14-page composition.
But that's the way, yeah.
Yeah, you have to tune things out a little bit. You can't be getting back to emails quickly when a promoter says, we've just had an opening come up for November. Can you do it? You know, that requires like 100% alertness, I feel like. Because I book my own gigs, you know, I hope I don't always have to, but yeah. So plans, definitely plans, Slovenia, everywhere.
Yeah.
We're coming. I just don't know when.
We're coming to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about this duo album with vocals, is it original music or standards, or what have you done?
There is a standard, A Kiss to Build a Dream On, track 1, and the last track is Some Other Time by Leonard Bernstein, and then in it are a load of originals. Okay. And some of the songs are just acoustic guitar and voice, but there are a couple with some other things in there to check out. So
beautiful.
I guess if people think, I don't know what people's relationships with albums is these days. I can imagine a reviewer saying, this is a collection of, I mean, what is album? What is an album if not a collection anyway? For me, it's a collection of different species of pieces centered around the sound of Brigitte Bera's voice and me playing guitars. But there are loads of other ingredients and frames within which that is presented. But yeah, 2 standards and then 6 original compositions.
Beautiful, man. Super. We'll check it out when it comes out.
Hope you like it. Yeah, 16th of August. It's called Ensconced.
In what?
Ensconced. It's an unusual word. Ensconced. Ensconced.
Okay. Wow. That's a good selling start. So everyone will be like, what?
Yeah. What's the album called? And then they get bored and listen to like, you know, Julian Lage or something. That's okay.
But cool, man. Thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, man. Appreciate it. So, and you know, it was nice.
Hey, my pleasure, mate. Thanks for the chat. Yeah. Well, I hope to catch up with you at some point, mate. Send me that record.
I will. I'll send you an email now, and I'll also let you know when this is out and send you a link and everything. So
beautiful. I'll share it on my channels, as they say. Thank you for your time, mate.
Yeah, you too. Ciao, man.